When my older daughter, Mackenzie, was in high school, she was involved in show choir. Now, show choir in Iowa, it is a thing. It is this really big thing. If you've never heard of Iowa show choir, you should definitely Google search on YouTube, Iowa show choir, and you'll see how big of a thing. I would compare it to Minnesota hockey lifestyle. Show choir is no joke. So we would travel every weekend to go watch her perform in Iowa show choir. And one weekend we went and we saw her performance, but she was staying with the team. And it started to snow as we drove back home. And it was clear that it was going to be one of those snows that was going to be really slippery out. And so, we told her, said, all right, she had her car at the high school and she was going to take the bus back from the other high school. We said, well, we want you to be really good, careful, be really good at communicating with us. And so as she's driving the bus back, all of a sudden I get this text. It's late at night and says, hey, my phone is going to die, but I'll let you know. I'll wake you up when I get home. And so I know that her phone is going to die and she's in this bus. And that is when I started thinking. My brain started going and going and going. And I was thinking, I can't sleep. I can't sleep knowing that my daughter is not home yet. So this week on the Daily Dose, we're going to talk about one of the hardest things I think there is to do in the entire world. We're going to talk about how to let it go. I think letting go is one of the hardest things that we have to do in our lives. My mom always said letting go of a child is harder than giving birth to a child, and I agree. We want to hold on to the things that we love. We want to hold on to stuff in our lives. We want to hold on to our kids or even hold on to our worries. Sometimes we hold on to resentment or hold on to anger or frustration. We want to hold on to grudges. Maybe even in our lives, we hold on to fear. We like to say little platitudes like, I'm going to let go and let God, and it sounds all nice and stuff. But the implementation of that actual letting go and letting God, let's be real, it is really hard. As I sat in the bed watching the snow out my window and knowing that my daughter was on this bus, this 40-minute bus ride home, I started to look at the clock. I figured it would take about 40 minutes from when she texted me to when they get back to the high school, probably about another 10 minutes for her to go put her show choir stuff away in the high school, and then she'd have to go back to her car, scrape it off, kind of get it warmed up, and then take the 10-minute drive back to our house. So I decided that all in all, that was probably about 70 minutes, and so I watched the clock. And then after about 75 minutes, I started to get nervous. And then in about 85 minutes, that's when worry consumed my entire body. And I was consumed with what I call WCS, worst case scenario syndrome, maybe. I don't know if that's a thing, but you know what I mean. When you start creating the worst case scenarios in your mind, you start thinking like, okay, what if the bus slid off into the ditch? What if she can't get her car started and everyone else has left the high school parking lot? Now she is walking because her cell phone is dead. Now she's walking to the nearest gas station to call me. Or what if she started driving home and then she slid into a ditch? And I started thinking all the things that were going on in my head when I had worst case scenario or WCS. Worry creeped in so much into my life that I woke up Ryan and I said, all right, that's it. I got to go find her. And he said, okay. He said, call me if you need anything. So in my pajamas, I went and got my boots and my coat on and I got into my car and I started making my way towards the high school. And as soon as I made it to the end of our street, of course, that's when this Buick LaCrosse started to drive through and she turned towards the street. She waved at me. And then she looked annoyed at me, and then I turned around and I followed her all the rest of the way home. You see, I'm a smart woman, and you're smart people. We consciously know that worry doesn't do us any good, don't we? We sing songs in our lives like, don't worry, be happy. But the actual implementation of not worrying, I think, is really incredibly hard. Jesus very plainly addresses worry in the world. In the Sermon on the Mount, he addresses the crowd saying, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life. Don't worry about what you're going to eat or what you're going to drink or about your body or what you're going to wear. Is not your life more than food or your body more than clothes? And then he goes on, he says, look at the birds of the air. They don't sow or reap, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. How much more valuable are you than the birds of the air? Can any one of you add a single hour to your life by worrying? And then Jesus takes it one step further. He says, And why do you worry about your clothes? See the flowers in the fields grow. They don't labor or spin, but even Solomon in all his glory couldn't measure up to these flowers. If it's not the grass of the field that is here today and then gone and tomorrow into the fire, won't God clothe you? Won't God do even more for you? So don't even worry. Don't say, what should I drink or what should I wear? Because the pagans run after things and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. And then Jesus says, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and then all the things will be given to you as well. He closes it up by saying, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow is going to worry about itself. Today has enough trouble as its own. When I read these words, I find myself comforted, and I'm like, all right, Jesus, I get it. I really do get it. I understand that worrying isn't going to add a single thing in my life. So why do I do it? You see, I think that worry is our attempt to control the uncontrollable. I'm going to say that again. Worry is our attempt to control the uncontrollable. I think we worry because it gives us some sense of security, some sense of control in a world that, if we're honest, that can be random and hurtful and chaotic, in a world that can sometimes be awful and knock the feet right out of under people. And so we WCS, we worst case scenario to try and control the possibilities of any of these terrible, awful outcomes. We find ourselves getting a headache, and so we do a quick Google search, which turns out that on WebMD we find out that we have cancer, so then we worry about it. This worry is our attempt to control the uncontrollable. And ironically, when we try and get some level of control in our lives, Jesus pushes back on that. Jesus is saying, no, quit trying to control your lives. Instead, trust that I've got you. Trust that I'm going to control your tomorrows, that I'm working in and through and among all of the things that are going on in your lives, that there isn't a moment that I'm not working with you. Friends, the truth is we are not alone. Whatever worryings you're carrying today, whatever burdens are on your shoulders, I want you to hear this. God is with you, and God will hold it with you. And this is why we don't have to worry about tomorrow, because God's gone ahead and taken care of tomorrow for us too, even in the worst case scenario. So I think in that's how we can let go. We let go and we know that God has got our worries as well. We can trust God instead of holding it into ourselves. So then we can actually let it go.